Hello everyone and welcome to Medford Anywhere Learning TV. We're glad you're tuned in. We want to give a shout out to our friends at Southern Oregon PBS, KTVL, KDRV, and the Dove Network. Thank you for hosting us on your station. In the Medford School District, we have one shared vision, and that we believe that all are learning, and learning is for all. And what better place to do that than right here on Medford Anywhere Learning TV.
Hi, I'm Kathryn Zurn with the Children's Advocacy Center in Medford, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker and a child and family therapist there. And I'm here to answer some questions from some very involved and caring parents.
I'm Megan Purdy, and I am a parent of 3 daughters. I have Claire, that is a freshman at South Medford High School, Julia, who's a senior at South Medford High, and Ella, who is a freshman at Oregon State University. And I had some questions for Kathryn that I thought I would ask her during these uncertain times. Kathryn, how do we support our seniors during these unknown times when they are missing out on so many big milestones?
First, I think, and this is something that I would probably say over and over again, is you start with empathy. You start with, not dismissing it, but reflecting back, the recognition that they are truly experiencing something that no other teenagers have experienced since probably World War II. And then I think I think that kids are so creative and they can generate a lot of ideas, but perhaps you can brainstorm with them, how to begin that process. And, one of the things is letting them know that they are truly a unique class. There's going to be no other class that comes along, hopefully, that has this experience, and they have a lot to teach. And I think they can try creating their own rituals, like a class time capsule, help them brainstorm. They can maybe get into some Zoom groups and generate some ideas together. And I think then you want to also make room for the grief. And as well as the opportunity, because these kids know the value of true connection. And they're going to take that out into the world and change. So there's what's called altruism. And I think calling on that altruism with these high school seniors, these college seniors, these 8th grade graduates, about what they're going to carry forward into the world to change it for the better.
Thank you. Another question that I have is, how do we help ease their anxiety and fear about the future when we don't necessarily have the answers?
Absolutely. Again, starting with empathy and validation. Yeah. And even sharing your own sense of, what that's like for you as well. And you may even start the conversation with that. I know I'm struggling with uncertainties of this, and uncertainty creates anxiety. And I'm wondering what it's like for you. And then 3 things that are very, very important are learning how to come into the present, connecting, and then having hope for the future. So when they begin to recognize the anxiety in themselves, one of the things they might be able to do is begin to start to use strategies. Here's the perfect opportunity when they're not when they're not in class or walking down the halls of the school or have 15 things on their agenda, to begin to look inward and to begin to learn mindfulness, to begin to really develop breathing skills. And then how are they going to connect, and who are they going to connect with? And then maybe what they're learning now to take forward into the future.
And I know at our home, and talking to a lot of other teenagers, the ones that are getting ready to graduate, so many, they have plans to go to college or to a trade school, or they're going into the military, or they were planning on working. And now they're looking at a time where, oh no, we may not be able to do any of this. And they've been waiting for this for so long. So just being able to, have the right words talking to them to ease their stress or their anxiety about nothing's going to look the same as what we thought. It's hard.
Right. It
Mhm.
isn't what they thought, but
Mhm.
it may be deferred,
Mhm.
but that doesn't mean it's disappeared. And what skills are they learning now that are going to stand them in good stead when they actually do what they've dreamed of doing? And sometimes that isn't academic. Sometimes it's a personal, uh, uh, some personal growth, some increased capacity to sit with discomfort, to learn to identify their own feelings and thoughts, and to learn to um, imagine how they want to be in the future. So um, you're right, it isn't the same, and that you want to acknowledge that it isn't the same. You don't know what you're going to get, and you can still move towards that. And then maybe some concrete steps in how they do that.
Thank you. Another question that I had is, how can we help them navigate the social media and the news when there is so much information coming at them? And they read one thing one day, oh, this college is opening, this college is closing. It's a scary time, not just with that, but with people are sick, and it's just they get so much of that through their social media and the news.
Right. And I think having, first of all, what are their news sources? And really, maybe picking out 2 or 3 news sources that um, they're going to attend to, and I would help them kind of figure out a schedule for that. Like, am I watching news all day, or am I going to sit down and watch the PBS NewsHour? And being careful not to go down rabbit holes, and not responding to like a Pavlovian response to everything that's on social media. It's like, okay, yeah. Like, I, for example, am starting to get conspiracy theories sent to me from friends, and I just nod and I move on, because going down those rabbit holes is a way to try to manage your anxiety about something, making meaning out of something that really doesn't have meaning, right? So just recognizing and sitting with the discomfort of maybe of not knowing. But I would say guard against the rabbit trails.
Thank you. How do we teach them resilience and strength when they are feeling so much disappointment?
I think that's the definition of resilience and strength, right? Is to be resilient and resolved and moving, standing in the present and moving forward in the face of disappointment, in the face of adversity. And so it's sort of a little bit like, it reminds me a little bit of The Wizard of Oz, how the Cowardly Lion wanted courage. And the reality is he had it all along. And so that's how I would frame it with them.
Kathryn, thank you so much for answering my questions. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for your questions, and the best to you and your daughters.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
As a therapist at the Children's Advocacy Center, one of our emphasis is on safety, because safety is fundamental to anything else and to learning. Obviously, online safety is an issue right now, with children spending hours and hours of screen time. So one of the biggest factors in safety is parents having ongoing conversations with their children, in addition to being aware and observing. Conversations can be about, has anybody online asked you to keep anything a secret? Or has anybody brought up sexual issues with you while they're online with you? And it's also really important to talk about what your values are as a family, about privacy, what's public, and keep the conversation going. I was recently listening to a training where they said that actually there are better outcomes with when you don't rely on devices to manage everything your child is doing online, but that you're having regular conversations with them. And there are some websites that you can look at, including what's called the ICAC taskforce.org and the cyber tip line. There's a website called NetSmarts, and that's NETSMARTZ.org, and also commonsensemedia.org. Hi, I'd like to introduce you to Sally, and one of our other parents.
Hi, I am Sally Constanza. I am a mom of three, 13, 12, and a 9-year-old whom attend Kids Unlimited Academy. I am so grateful to be here and so grateful for everybody who's involved and for doing all of this for the community.
And Sally, you have some questions for me. I'd love to hear them.
Sure. So recently, as we know what's going on with the pandemic, recently my 12-year-old told me that she feels that she is inside of a cage. How do I talk to her? How do I develop a conversation that it's not only gonna help her for the moment, but for however long this lasts, and also, as in life in general?
So one of the places I always start is with just doing a validation statement, and that's just acknowledging how huge this is, how people haven't gone through this for many, many years, and that you can really understand how that must be hard, especially when you're 12 years old and you're active. The next thing is I would ask how much physical activity she's getting and how much outdoor time she's getting. And is that regularly built into her day? And how can she regularly build it into her day? The other thing is what types of activities is she engaging in with friends? Is it always is she doing any virtual play dates or anything like that?
Well, she is doing Zoom, with her teachers. And also, as part of our church, they do like a Tuesday night activity. And that's helpful. They always look forward for that. Um, but just not being able to go and do what a preteen would do, go to the mall or go to the park and do those kind of things, it's really hard on them. And, for me, it's only, as a parent, there's only so much that I can do because I do feel all burned out as well.
Right. So your energy becomes limited. So it's sort of like how everybody in the house does self-care. So I really want to emphasize the need for physical activity, for regular physical activity, and for getting outdoors. We're lucky that we're not living in a crowded urban area where we can actually get out and go for a walk. And maybe that's something, a ritual that you're able to do with her in the evening, or I would just brainstorm with her what she would like to do in the way of moving. And then also helping her to begin to maybe practice some mindfulness activities, just to sort of center herself and ground herself. And there's a lot of great stuff online for that.
Another question that I do have is for my son, who is 9 years old, and he's a really active little boy. He is hands-on. He loves to create things, and he loves to play. He plays soccer, and then in school he was doing taekwondo, and he was getting ready for a tournament on April 20th, and his energy has declined, and lately he has been telling me that he has major headaches, and he actually, I'm worried about him, about his mental health at this point, where he has cried once that I know of. What else can I do?
Great question, because he's a kinesthetic kid. He that's how he learns about the world. That's how he explores the world. And again, I can't emphasize enough, how do we get kids to be able to move and to be outside? Do you have an area around your house that he can play outside?
We do. We have a trampoline. We have a dog that we
Uh-huh.
go for walks. And so we go around the neighborhood, and then I get them wet, and I just got them a little pool, because after I found him crying, I just, and I, for my well-being too, it's like, what am I doing wrong? And so we do go for walks, but that's about it in the afternoon. And he has a punching bag that he does, but it might be different, I would say, because my husband works out of town, so it's just a 9-year-old boy with 2 girls and a mom. So I don't know if that has something to do with it, being the only boy, being the youngest, and could it be?
That sounds certainly possible. He's wanting to relate to somebody like him, and there are a number of factors. One of the questions that I hear you asking is, at what point should I be worried about depression
Exactly.
or anxiety?
Yes.
And then what are interventions I can use? And so one of the things is, is he sleeping okay? Is he eating okay? Are there things that he still enjoys? So if he was, you just can't get him out of bed, and he's stopping eating, or he's, cramming food down, or he is, suddenly having nightmares about the coronavirus or other events, then that might be you might want to call a therapist. And if not, if he's able to keep his if he's sleeping, eating, and there are things he really enjoys, maybe breaking up his school time a little bit to more hands-on things, giving him more time. One thing to keep in mind that I want to emphasize over and over again is, it's not all about academic learning. It's also about learning to deal with big feelings. Yeah, I know. I am feeling cooped up and very lonely, and I wonder what that's like for you, and to begin to identify those feelings, and what can you do when you have that feeling, because there's a lot of kids out there having that feeling, right?
Thank you so much. One more question that I have is for us parents. How do we deal with all of this? For me specifically, and I might be speaking for a large number of community members, I am married, but my husband works out of town all the time. He is what's called an essential worker. He works as a truck driver. And so I am home with the kids all the time, but 4 days a month. How I feel like a single mom, really. So how do we take care of our mental health when overlooking over our family and still be okay? And how do we deal with it? Because all of this is new to all of us, but for the family to function, I feel, and this is my truth, that the head needs to be all right, that we need to be okay.
Mhm. Right. You have to, it's the old putting on your oxygen mask before you can put the oxygen mask on your children, right? And um, I, th- I think it's important to have goals. I know you're in school yourself. You have demands on you, and you've got 3 children that you're helping guide them through school. I think sometimes we have to adjust expectations. And again, maybe it's not all about academics. Maybe I'm learning how to meditate. Maybe I'm learning how to do yoga. Maybe I'm learning something about myself. Maybe I'm learning, making new connections with my kids. Maybe I'm sitting down playing some online games with my kids that I know what they're doing. And maybe I'm whatever you can see your own growth, right? And having self-compassion.
Thank you.
Saying, you know what I did today was enough. And my kids, they got up, they ate breakfast, they did some of their work, they ate lunch, they played outside, they made a drawing, we had a great talk, and they're safe. I'm a great mom. And so cutting yourself some slack.
Thank you. And I also forgot to mention that I also work out of the house. So that just adds up to everything. And so I know how it is firsthand to have all of that stuff. So actually, that is my next question. As parents who are working out of the house, we stress if our kids will pass all of their classes. And me being a student myself, I struggle finding balance and peace of mind sometimes. And we worried about the grades at this point, or just, do we worry about the grades at this point, or just making sure that we are okay and surviving?
I think what you do is you celebrate the small victories. You don't have to celebrate the whole class. You can celebrate getting the paper done. You can celebrate. You can pat yourself on the back for eating nutritionally. You can give yourself recognition for doing some kind of physical activity. I think the emphasis has to be on the small steps. We used to call it the small dance, and giving your children and yourself recognition for following through with that.
Thank you. And my other question that I have is, for kids whom English is their second language, using a computer is hard enough for them, and yet learning from it and expecting them to pass all of their classes. And that is the case for one of my daughters who, the oldest, she came from Guatemala last year, and she's about to go to high school. And now she is not having any contact with anybody. Yes, she's going to school, and there's only so much she's doing, but learning a new language during this time and about to go to high school. What would you say, or what can I tell her to just encourage her to keep going? And is it gonna be okay?
I think for you, knowing that it is going to be okay and that she is going to get it, and I would say maybe rather than formal learning, having her try other informal ways, like the television, or a TV show that's one of her favorites, or if you have a group of kids that at your church or something like that she can Zoom with every day and just have fun, learning it, rather than doing it in the formal online way, and maybe even music. Just let her work on learning some new songs. I would just allow her to have some fun with it.
Awesome.
I tell you, I think the parents are really the heroes. Parents and the teachers and the essential workers are real heroes. I don't know how parents are doing it. So my hat is off to you.
Thank you, likewise.
If you can be thinking in terms of, again, regulating, connecting, and instilling hope, and doing a little bit of that every day. And so for regulating, you can learn breathing. It doesn't have to be, 15-minute meditations. It can be small breath practices. With kids a lot, I like to use bubble breath, where I imagine breathing in and then imagine blowing the biggest bubble I can, so that the out breath is a little bit longer than the in breath. Or you can do 6 counts in, 6 counts out. There are breathing apps. There's an app called Breathe, where you can really set the length of time you're breathing. And sometimes I need something to breathe with when I'm dysregulated. There's also Calm and Headspace. There's a lot of different apps you can use to help guide your quiet time. And another thing is grounding and centering, and that can be that's as simple as moving the toes in your shoes, or pressing your heels into the floor. There is a strategy called 5-4-3-2-1 that we teach every child that comes through our offices, and you can even do it with your child. You name 5 things you see, 5 things you hear, 5 sensations that you feel, then 4, then 3, then 2, then 1. And then as for connecting, I think finding ways for yourself to connect with people who affirm you and who can listen compassionately to you. And also, it's the little things, the day-to-day. When I go to the grocery store and I'm wearing my mask, I make intention to smile at people with my eyes. And in making that connection with people, I get the real oxytocin and the serotonin uplift. And so we need those opportunities to genuinely connect with people. If you have a faith group, and you can be checking in with, someone from your faith group twice a week. And then instilling hope, having self-compassion, recognizing, again, what are you learning now, and what will you be taking out into the world as you go forward, and what are you looking forward to? And I think one of the things that this has helped us with is with the recognition that connection is important, and perhaps this will all change us all for the better. I want to thank the parents who've been very generous with their time and the conflicts that they're experiencing. And I want to thank you for joining us here on Medford Anywhere Learning TV.
Thanks for tuning in to Medford Anywhere Learning TV. Medford School District is a place where all are learning, and learning is for all.